Oh, I'm just an ordinary woman. I'm Kay Bridner, and I got married to a soldier I went to school with Ed, and we got married, and I moved up in Gagetown. I'm still here 48 years.
In the 60s, we were here from 64 to 67. We were young, 25 years old. And my husband went out in the area for 6 weeks every summer. That was part of his soldiering.
My husband and I grew up here together. We went to school together. He hung out with my older brother, and they both joined the military at the same time. So I knew my husband for years before we got married.
To me, living on an army base, any army base, the only adjustments that we had to make was just making new friends again. We were always waiting for posts, and we get excited. Probably every year we say, well, when are we moving again? When are the movers coming? When we moved, it was, to me, an adventure.
At first it was hard because there was really nothing here. There was no stores, there was no shopping center, there was no post office. So everything was not as you see it today.
It was a very special time in our lives, and we were very proud of being soldiers. And one of the most famous regiments in the world, Black Watch. Okay, Blissville Airport's over here in Area 49. They would take off from there and fly over towards the tower of Finnegan's Hill. Somewhere in here there were several little designated spraying strips laid out for them to spray. Then they would swing and head down around Cross Colognes. Then they would swing back up in Area 47 in Enniskillen Road in Camp Petersville and back to the airport. This is the best method they found over the years of controlling brush because manual clearance is very, very costly and time-consuming. So they went to chemical spraying. And over the years, the chemical names have changed many times, from Bush Guard to Agent Orange to Agent White to Agent Purple to Bush Kill, a whole list. But they all contained a couple things that are deadly to troops: dioxins and hexachlorobenzenes.
Well, they call them herbicides, obviously, because it kills foliage for the ranges here on the base so that they can get a clear view of their targets, and in war they can see their enemy.
This time-lapse photography shows in a few moments the gradual killing of a common weed over a 15-day period after spraying with 2,4-D weed killer. 2,4-D is a growth regulator type of weed killer. The action is physiological, appearing to upset the plant's growth processes, causing modification and breakdown of its parts, and causing gradual but certain death.
I knew it was some kind of chemical. I don't think they called it Dad called it Agent Orange there. He just mentioned chemicals because he said, when you're out in the ranges, and that just doesn't mean a flat field. I mean, they could be in the woods, they could be anywhere. Stuff started falling on them, and it wasn't raining. They were told to put their handkerchiefs, wet their handkerchiefs with water from their canteens and put it over their nose and mouth. Now, Dad said they did what they were told, but they knew that instinctively, they knew that there was something wrong.
I remember when we were dating, and then after we were first married, we would go for drives, and we would go out to what's called the branch road. And I remember him, every time we went out that road, he would stop and he'd say, look at this. Someday, there are going to be a lot of people who are sick. There are going to be a lot of people die from this. There are going to be a lot of people who are very ill. He said, just look at this. And the whole field, like huge, there wasn't one thing growing on it. And it must have been like that for about 25 years.
You could see, and they even had stakes out with orange tape, and they tell you, stay out of that area. An area that you've been walking through all your life. Why? Never mind, just stay out of it. And you could see the dead blueberry crops, the dead leaves. The leaves would come off the bushes. It would look just like a desert out in Arizona after the Blitz.
Anyone in their right mind knows when you spray something up there, It's not going to stay right in the block. It's going to drift. Besides, my husband was out there crawling through the grasses, drinking the water, doing whatever he had to do as a soldier. And yes, for sure, he was exposed to chemicals. He had to have been.
Live from our Maritime News Center, the ATV Evening News. Here is Steve Murphy. It is, of course, June 23rd, and good evening, everyone. It has taken 40 years, but the government of this country has finally shed some light on the use of deadly herbicides at Canadian Forces Base Gagetown. But some of the more than 200 people at the public meeting don't believe what they've been told. And now they're seeing red over what they suspect is a cover-up over Agent Orange.
They came from near and far to a place they knew long ago. They were in search of answers to questions raised by a long list of health problems that may be related to the use of herbicides on the base during the 1960s. Retired soldiers, civilian employees, people who used to live in nearby towns, all eager to hear about the testing of Agent Orange and Agent Purple. The government says the defoliants were tested for 3 days in 1966 and 4 days in 1967 over a limited and remote area.
A lady found this for me in Frenchie's.
Frenchie's?
Yeah, used clothes place. Eh? They sell
Used
books
clothes
and
store?
yeah. And she said, I think Earl will be interested in that. She told the wife, because he's into this Agent Orange stuff. No, this was in the book that Dal was concerned about the dioxins in the Agent Orange at 1 parts per million. And then other companies that are associated with Dal were mixing their stuff at 47 parts per million, because even 1 part per million was lethal to the human being. Eh?
On his records, and I have his medical docs, after he had gotten out of the forces, he asked to have his medical docs released. I've gone through all of his medical docs. There's a spot on his lungs they can't even explain. It's unexplainable, just that he keeps getting pneumonia. And that lung, they never came up with any answer, just that he had pneumonia. And after the pneumonia, they figured he had the pneumonia shot, so then it was just called lung infection.
There were 9 kids in his family. 2 were in the army. 2 died of cancer. 1 of cancer of the liver, 1 with cancer of the lung. The others were fine. Cancer does not run in their family. They both had cancer at the same time.
The virus can hide away in your anti-immune system and may come out or may never come out. And when it does come out, it usually hits and attacks an area very quickly, and boom, you're gone.
Take one of our buddies there from down Gary. He was robust. He's out hunting all the time with his dog and that, the area. He likes going out in the Gagetown area.
Ernie.
He got sick. 3 weeks, boom, he was gone.
Ernie Simmons.
He had got a sore on the bottom of his foot that grew.
His lungs were
burnt.
burnt.
Cancer and his lungs were burned. He's the one that played in this.
He's the one I spoke about in the House of Commons.
In 1965, Ernie remustered to the 3rd Service Battalion as a truck driver. He picked up and delivered full barrels of herbicide from the Blissville Airport, the legendary Agent Orange Airport, and the Enniskillen, and delivered them to such sites as the Manor and other locations where the spraying and the planes were taking off and choppers to do their work. And then he took the empty drums to the dump site or whatever site they told him to drop them off. His lungs are burnt. His specialist agrees his lungs were burnt by chemical exposure to Agent Orange. They just simply told him there's not enough proof that Agent Orange could have done that to him. This man is very, very sick. He is one of many who are very sick. In the last 2 years, we have lost over 200 veterans, most of them relating to cancer, diabetes, and heart problems. This chemical has killed thousands of people, and we were never told about it, and the veterans are really upset and ugly over this. That you can take my word on. Thank you very much for hearing my presentation.
I can see Dad coming out with his uniform on. I used to watch Dad polish his boots too. I could see my face in his boots. Used to watch him polish his buttons if there was going to be a parade or some kind of parades or meetings, or where everybody gathered.
1st Battalion on parade, brigade parade at Blissville Airport.
That's just the lead company.
That's just the That's the first battalion marching in 12 abreast. That's just the first battalion. Now the second battalion is behind them, and the rest of the brigade's behind them.
How many more?
Canadian Guard,
Thousands.
RCR,
Everybody that
patrol,
was on summer
armor,
concentration out
Service Corps, Ordnance Corps, Vandus,
there. But the parade,
everyone except Western Command would have been there.
but the parade is right down in the contaminated area. This airport is where they were mixing the stuff,
That's where they
and where the airplanes landed. And they took us right in the middle of it. What's ringing that parade? That's all civilians, that's the families out watching this parade in the contaminated area.
The only thing you heard, people just didn't know what it did, but they talked about something happening to their crops, to their homes, to their food, basically. Dead gardens, you know, stuff all over the windows of their house, people getting ill from it, people picking blueberries after they sprayed, you know. They went out in that area. There were communities out there, and they